Coming up on this episode of the IoT Inc. Business Show.
When you think about connected manufacturing, it's about connecting OT and IT. It's about connecting production systems to core business processes, including end-to-end visibility. So you could also say shop floor to top floor. This is also maybe now a high level, but if you go a level deeper and you talk to the customers, what is currently driving them on manufacturing, one is obviously operational effectiveness. So how can I increase my efficiency? How can I increase the speed level of automation?
There's no secret that the IIoT is enabling manufacturing to go through its next revolution. Some call it Industry 4.0, but it goes further than the shop floor. The industrial Internet of Things is virtualizing the entire manufacturing industry from supply chain to factory to distribution, and along the way is having a profound effect on the workforce and the equipment used. In this episode of the IoT Business Show, I speak with Tanja Rueckert about the hot topics of connected manufacturing and asset intelligence.
All this and more on this episode of the IoT Inc. Business Show. The people, the business, and the technology of the next generation internet. This is the IoT Inc. Business Show. And now, here's your host, Bruce Sinclair.
Hello and welcome to the IoT Inc. Business Show. This show is for business leaders and managers employing the Internet of Things for their business or the business of their customers. I'm your host, Bruce Sinclair, and I interview the industry's leading authorities to find out how they use IoT to improve business and create value. If you like this show, subscribe to it on iTunes and go to IoTinc.com to check out my complimentary articles, videos, meetups, and webinars.
Just in case you're in town, I've got a few keynotes that are coming up. Sao Paulo, Brazil. The Innovator Summit, that'll be on September 5th. And then there'll be two in my neck of the woods. There'll be the IoT Influencers Summit, that's in San Francisco on October 12th, and the IoT Tech Expo, that'll be in Santa Clara on October 20th and 21st. Well, I haven't formally announced this yet, but maybe I mentioned on one other episode, but I've been writing a book on IoT business since February of this year. And is going to be released, or published, I should say, early in 2017. It's going to be about IoT and the outcome-based economy. Also, I haven't been formal about this, but I did mention in my last newsletter, is that I'm starting a book review club. So if you want to get early access, give me feedback to the book, send me an email. I'm at bruce@iot-inc.com. With me today on the IoT show is Tanja Rueckert. Tanja is EVP of the IoT Business Unit at SAP, with end-to-end responsibility for all areas of manufacturing, supply chain management, asset management, Internet of Things, and Industry 4.0. I met Tanja a few times now, first at the Industrial Internet Consortium, and then at Internet of Things World a few months back in Santa Clara. We got along pretty well, so I thought I'd invite her on the show. Tanja, welcome.
Thank you. And such a warm welcome on getting along well is very nice.
Yeah. Well, we actually, I think we set the tone at the conference because, most Americans, they don't hug people when they're on stage. And I liked it. We got a nice hug and we started off things well.
Virtual hug. Digital world and virtual hug. Okay, back to you, Bruce.
Yeah, we're going to do this all virtually, and of course, Tanja's time zone is a little bit ahead of mine. She's at the end of her Friday, which I'm a little bit jealous, and I'm at the beginning of mine. But why don't you tell us, Tanja, what's the last IoT-related project that you've been working on recently?
I think the last IoT-related project was a lot of customer workshops we had just when I was in Palo Alto and in Mexico, where we discussed with several customers how to transform their business. And it often starts with an efficiency discussion or increasing the level of automation. Yeah? so in the shop floor. And then it continues, what could we do to increase or add another revenue stream? What could we do to have a new business model? What could we do to have another maybe personalized product and service? So it really gets very interesting, starting from efficiency, going to new business models.
So, Tanja, are you actually getting hands-on? Are you playing in the software and the hardware?
We are getting hands-on with several of our partners when we look at the sensors and the gateways, but we are providing the software. So I think we are kind of in the heart of the overall, you could call it a network, and connecting the devices, the dots, connecting everything with a business process, with a business system. But we are not a hardware provider. But we obviously partner with many companies who are providing, if it's robots, if it's, as I said, sensors, if it's devices, because we are reading all the data and we want to make sense out of the smart data and make sure that we can create some insights for our customers, for the companies to drive the new business models or change some of their current business processes.
How long has SAP been involved in IoT, I guess in the form that they're actually call it IoT?
Yeah, in the form we call it IoT, maybe not so long, a year or something like this. What we did before was a lot of co-innovations with customers, because we believe you first have to better understand what are the dominant or the use cases which brings the highest value to the individual businesses. And I think based on those business cases or based on those projects we did in co-innovation with customers, and of course discussing also with analysts and other external parties, we then defined what should be our portfolio where we provide the highest value with standard solutions from SAP. And I think this started, I would say, 6 months ago, and also a little earlier, where we started to talk about predictive maintenance and service solutions from SAP and others.
Now, are you developing any IoT-specific functionality, or is it more taking the existing functionality and applying it to the Internet of Things?
Bruce, it's an excellent question. And you see both. You have cases where we call it IoT-enabled solution, where we make sure, let's take manufacturing as an example. I think we are in the manufacturing industry since many years, and working in the industry as well down to the shop floor. But now with the opportunity to connect to the devices, to get the data out of the machines, to really make sure the product finds its own way through the production, we obviously added more around this connectivity. We added more around this intelligence, this pattern analysis, the predictability, and so on. So this is more connected manufacturing. It builds on our existing product, but it adds more and more features where we have IoT enablement. As I said, connectivity is one of it. We also have in warehouse management the topic of robotics and so on. But we also have products which were not possible before, because before we could not analyze those huge amount of data or put predictions on. Machine learning was not known about getting the right data from the machines getting more intelligent. And one easy example is here predictive maintenance and service. Obviously, it also uses data from our plant maintenance. It also uses data from our customer and service system. But it really on top has predictive algorithms and connects the different dots from the machine, extends the lifetime of the machine. Sometimes we should think of machines like getting more and more human. Yeah, you have to think of a doctor, a health status, and lifetime extension. And those are new applications which were not possible 10 years ago.
No, I like that analogy. So we're going to get into the use cases in a bit, but I guess I want to just understand, and as much for myself as the listeners, is okay. I know SAP has HANA, so you've been alluding to it a little bit in terms of the analytics. It has the business system connectivity. You were saying you've got you've been adding new functionality to be able to connect to different devices to bring in the data. So at a high level, is SAP providing an IoT platform, a middleware to connect it all together, or maybe just educate me a little bit in terms of what is it that SAP is offering?
Yeah, happy to, Bruce, and I love how you started the question. I would almost, if you have not such a great role and job already, I would offer you a job. Because you highlighted the key differentiators or the key advantages of SAP. We are the ones who can map the data from the thing, from the device to the business back-end data, to the ERP master data. Because we have the business back-end to a large extent and we understand what is happening at the front end. This is one element. Another one is in-memory technology. And in-memory technology to analyze data and to really get fast insights, making analytics on top and connected them again to the business backend. And last on this topic is also with in-memory technology to some pre-processing. And then we obviously bring our industry expertise, the business processes and those technologies together and marry them up in solutions. And that was your question. So what is SAP offering? So we are coming from the business process. So what we have is we developed out of the use cases, we developed several of our IoT application solutions. I mentioned predictive maintenance and service. We also have one which analyzes the data of the vehicles, does fleet management. So you think about hundreds of land machines and so on. And this is building on an IoT platform. It's building on an IoT platform, open and secure, where we on top have even reusable application services. Because I must admit, when I got all the different teams working on IoT solutions in SAP, one topic I realized is we had quite some duplications. So there are some topics which are needed in each and every IoT application over and over again. And what we are offering to our customers, partners, ecosystem, startups, is a layer of reuse services that they can very fast, easily build new applications. And then we also have some intelligence at the edge processing, where we do make sure that we are not collecting all the data, because no one really needs all the data, but make some pre-processing selections on the gateway with the data we need and some streaming. So it's in total an end-to-end solution. But as you can imagine, we work with a lot of partners because some topics, if you think about the entire IoT stack, like the telco part or connectivity part, is something we are not covering. So we cover the software solutions along the stack.
Okay. So you're writing, so if you're going all the way to the edge and doing some edge computing kind of in the foggish layer, so that means you're providing some software to run on partner hardware that is like gateways, like you were saying?
Yes, exactly. We are running on the gateways. We are not running on the sensors directly, but we are running on the gateways. We also work with partners like Intel or others together to make this pre-validated, pre-tested for our customers. But I think the message is important, and that's why, thanks for the question. We come from the application, the business process space. We go down to the platform, including application reuse services that you can easily build applications on your own. And we have elements where we use in-memory and streaming technology at the gateway, at the edge, to make sure that we get the right data.
Okay, now this is getting interesting. So for me, in my perspective, and listeners to this show are not going to be surprised, but all value from an IoT product is generated by transforming its data into useful information. And really the trinity of value is going to be the model that's shared between the application and the analytics. And so what I'm interested in hearing a little bit more about before we sort of get into the actual interview is on you said building applications. You have an environment for reusing applications. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think this is a critical component of any IoT platform, is the development environment where you can build your models and build your applications and distribute them across a different computing surface.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we believe in an open infrastructure, that means, of course, we offer our in-memory capabilities and so on, but we are also working with Cloud Foundry, with OpenStack, so we make it a very open environment. We also have storage layering. No one is able to have all data in one storage. Yeah, we know about the hot, cold, warm concept, which we also embrace in our HANA Cloud platform. If you talk about the reuse services to really fast build new applications, one element in it is, for example, we call it thing model, but you could call it, some call it type, some call it machine model. it's how you describe, and it can be an airplane, it can be anything. Yeah, it could be a train, it could be any asset, a compressor. But you always need to have some criteria behind it. You need to have a model, which is then connected to your business backend, to your business processes. So this is something what we provide here, the semantic layer, for example, in this application review services. We also talk about onboarding of devices, but also onboarding of business partners. Those are just some examples which we have seen that we need in all application, and it would be a waste of time for a developer to just develop it over and over when it can be provided centrally and they can just reuse it and focus on the differentiating part.
Yeah, no, and I like the concept, and it's a very important one. I call it a software-defined product. Some people call it the digital twin, which I'm not a big fan of. You're calling it the thing model. But most important here, though, is like what Tanja is saying, is that you're modeling a representation. Now, what's a little different here is we've been doing parametric models for a long time. We've been doing CAD models for a long time. But what we're talking about here is modeling the incremental value that the IoT product is going to provide, right? And so having that environment, and I like that, the thing model, is something that's super important. And again, for everyone listening, when you're evaluating an IoT platform, and I'm in no way promoting SAPs, but I'm kind of discovering this on the line as we go along. But you need to look at this model development environment, how the application wraps around it, and how the analytics, which I'm assuming HANA is going to be able to access these same models to build them up, to make them better, and then to analyze them for things like predictive analytics. So that's interesting. Anything else about the thing model?
I would love to add something because I think you triggered also. So you mentioned some companies also call it digital twin, where I agree, but I think digital twin goes even beyond, because if you do it in a good way, you could do remote inspections and so on. And maybe you have seen that SAP has acquired a company called Fedem in Norway, and they are specialized. It's very interesting. They are specialized in structural integrity modeling and monitoring. That means they are really using old-fashioned Newtonian physics to analyze an asset. Think about a wind turbine out there where you have never access, and you want to know exactly what happens there. And this is not possible only if you take some readings and analyze it a little bit into software. You really need to understand how the material feels, how it behaves, what happens to it. And this is something which this company has really 20 years of experience or more. They're also working with several universities. And we are building this in our predictive maintenance and service solution, as well as will offer our own solution just to monitor and model structural integrity. And it will be of materials, and it will be, of course, also part you can imagine of Industry 4.0 shop floor when you want to analyze materials, what happens to them during production. Maybe I'm going now too far, but it's really something no one else has, and people just look at the digital twin, and we maybe should call it true digital twin or Newtonian twin, or because it really reflects the reality using also material insights or the insights from the material itself.
Yeah, no, that's really important, and I think anything that you can do, and so we'll put. I think you said fit in. We'll put the link to the company in the show notes so our listeners can go there. But anything you can do to augment the modeling, and again, what's important here is the model in such a way that it can be interrogated by both the analytics and by the application. But anything you can do to increase the realism of that, and this sounds like an interesting one because, hey, I'm a lover of Newtonian physics as much as the next guy. It sounds like it would make it, a little bit, even a little bit more. I do have a question though, because I asked a lot of people this, and
one last comment on this topic, and then I'm quiet and let you guide. What I think what you said is important, that it comes from the machine, from the asset, it goes through the analytics, and then it goes to the business process. And some people think it stops at the dashboard or analytics, but then you only have a silo optimization. You have not a change of your business process which is, I think, is the key. And the more often you go through this loop, the more intelligent your system gets, the less human intervention is needed, and the higher level of automation. So I think this is a very fascinating topic. And as I said, sometimes some solutions end at the dashboard or a little analytics on some of the machines, but this is not the true value. The value is end to end.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to do this for a little while, and I'm gonna start digging into the modeling component in the show, and maybe then I'll ask you for a reference at your Finnish company at FinTen, because it is super important. And it's one of these things, and you saying going back to the business process and the iteration and the whole iteration cycle, it's one of the things that is not really discussed in the Internet of Things, right? Most of the time we're talking about the things, which is not where the value is, specifically from a business point of view. And the value, again, is going to be when you do model the value that you're trying to create, and then you can use it within the real environment. So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to talk more about this, but I think we need to move on, and I'm going to dedicate. But I will, I make a promise to everyone listening, as I am going to dig into this topic with a series of podcasts, because it's that important. Tanja, so you just reminded me, and I think you're probably maybe one of the best people in the world to ask this, but can you compare a lot of I'm Canadian, but I'm in the U.S. But a lot of North Americans, I guess, are confused between Industry 4.0 and Internet of Things, or Industrial Internet of Things. What's Tanya's kind of version of the difference, or are they the same?
Yeah. So I give you my version, and then I can share you in some countries it's taken in a different way. So Industry 4.0 is kind of the digitization of manufacturing. So it's really focusing on shop floor and everything what is around there. Internet of Things is broader, and Internet of Things has two flavors. One's the consumer Internet of Things, and the other one's the industrial Internet of Things. And if you talk about the industrial Internet of Things, we talk about everything along the value chain. It's not only the shop floor, it really goes also into logistics, so the logistics network or transportation optimization, fleet optimization, so connecting all the different solutions. So this is, and I think you can also look it up, so Industry 4.0 focus more on manufacturing, production shop floor, and IoT is broader. This is the official definition, but I know that in many countries it's kind of seen as the same. So I think if you talk in China or in Japan, people talk about Industry 3.0, but they really mean the optimization of the entire value chain and not only focusing on manufacturing. So this is kind of a little different by country and maybe even by group.
No, that's helpful, and I think that's a great way to put it. It is a subset theoretically of the IIoT being focused just on actually where it's happening, where the stuff's being made. But like you said, that's just one component of the entire supply chain. So yeah, no, thanks for that. Well,
okay.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just wanted to add. You could also see it when you look at the different initiatives. So if you look at the Industrial Internet Consortium, where I have the honor to be vice chair, there we came more from the software and the industrial internet, where Platform 4.0, which is driven also by Architect in Germany, and so on, came more from the manufacturing production part. But now we are converging, so it's becoming closer and closer, and we even have a joint event just now in September upcoming, where we bring again Platform 4.0 and Industrial Internet Consortium together. So often it starts in different areas, but it comes at the end together.
Yeah, no, actually, I'll put a link, although, some people obviously will be listening to the show after the event is over, but I'll also put a link to the show, because I did hear about that when I was at the last IIC meeting. And that's interesting, because what you're kind of indirectly saying is the IT-OT convergence in a way, whereas Industry 4.0 or the 4.0 platform kind of comes from the OT world, the operational technology world, and where maybe the Industrial Internet Consortium is coming at it from more of a software or an IT perspective. So that sounds like a pretty good marriage there then.
Yeah, and you can see it also if you look at the reference architecture. If you look at the IIC reference architecture, you see more software objects modeling, kind of the origin. And if you look at the the RAMI of the reference architecture of Platform 4.0, it has more the manufacturing production terms. But at the end, I think they're complementary. And I know there are sometimes voices coming up with competing, but this is not at all the case. I think it's very complementary and great collaboration between the two initiatives.
All right. Well, let's start. Tanja, tell me a little bit about yourself and tell me a little bit about your background in IoT.
Myself. So I'm at SAP responsible for all software solutions around Internet of Things, Industry 4.0, but as well the extended supply chain, because we at SAP see that the impact of IoT and Industry 4.0 is highest in the manufacturing industry, in the value chain along in one company as well as cross companies. So it also goes to logistics, it also goes to the warehouse. And about myself, I think I always love to work a little bit in, I wouldn't call it technology, but I want to analyze where things come from, how they are connected. I even re-engineered, my parents would say, deconstructed a radio when I was very young, and I didn't understand how I ever could put it back together. But I absolutely wanted to know what is happening there. So what is behind. And I also love to understand if data makes sense. So data science part, the logical part. I think this is something which also led, which might be surprising for someone in the IT industry. I studied actually science. I studied chemistry. And this was always a pleasure to somehow predict what is coming out. But it was also very interesting to be creative and something completely different came out and you could bring it to the next level. So I think this is a little bit background. Besides that, I'm a big fan of family besides work, but overall IoT is something I'm fascinating because of leading edge technology, great customers to work with, and really supporting a new era of digital transformation, which I believe everybody, maybe including us on the phone, is underestimating.
Yeah. No, and I kind of feel like I found a home at IoT as well, because I share a lot of your similar sentiments with just the discovery aspect, the analytical aspect, and just the breadth of it as well, just that it covers so many areas. So yeah, I see the attraction. Well, why don't we start? Let's talk about a few use cases. So we've been talking a little bit higher level, although we've been digging in at one of my favorite subjects anyway, the modeling. But let's talk about, you mentioned connected manufacturing, and we've talked it in the context of 4.0 a little bit. So can you maybe just describe what is it? Let's start from the basics. What is it, and kind of take it from there from an IoT perspective.
When you think about connected manufacturing, it's about connecting OT and IT. It's about connecting production systems to core business processes, including end-to-end visibility. So you could also say shop floor to top floor. This is also maybe now a high level, but if you go a level deeper and you talk to the customers, what is currently driving them on manufacturing, one is obviously operational effectiveness. So how can I increase my efficiency? How can I increase the speed level of automation? When you think about connected manufacturing, it's about connecting OT and IT. It's about connecting production systems to core business processes, including end-to-end visibility. So you could also say shop floor to top floor. This is also maybe now a high level, but if you go a level deeper and you talk to the customers, what is currently driving them on manufacturing, one is obviously operational effectiveness. So how can I increase my efficiency? How can I increase the speed level of automation? Next one is consumer centricity. The topic of lot size one, personalized, individualized products is key. And I think last one is also that we make sure speed of production, speed of delivery. And this, I think, comes all together in the solution we are offering. We have a direct connection to the machine level to get all the data we need for coordinating and steering the entire manufacturing system. We also have a direct link, and we even had a showcase at Hannover Fair where we showed that a personalized customer order goes in and it directly connects to the machine. It even does not need any SCADA system in between. So it simplifies the overall landscape and has then a kind of a mass production with customization with lot size 1, so a mass customization. And we had a feature in that if you need a spare part, that we also did a 3D printing. And this is a model we have even now in Waldorf and can show whoever is interested and want to come. And in Hannover Fair, we as SAP, as IT provider, we made it with this showcase on first page of the Hannover Fair magazine. So I think it touches a lot of the topics I mentioned. It has personalized products, it has high-speed production, and it has a certain autonomy of the system because the machines talk directly to each other and to the software.
That's interesting because something that I didn't really consider it, but I guess it is an outcome of this connectivity. But this whole concept of personalized or mass customization, that's interesting. Maybe talk a little bit more about that. I guess what you're saying is because now the entire shop floor is connected, and not only connected to itself, but connected to the outside world, then you can send orders to it, right? Maybe talk a little bit more to this individualized product concept and kind of how it works.
And I think you hit the point. We could do kind of configured cars many years ago, but to do it for, I would say, for low price assets, this is something we could never afford. We had the mass production maybe in some countries, and then we had the specialized production in some others where you could say, okay, this is worth the higher price. If we now think of combining the two, which was not possible before because it needs to happen without human intervention. Also, you need to have the same speed, the same model for low value assets or low cost assets. Otherwise, it's not working, low cost products. And this is what is now possible. If you combine the high speed, if you combine the direct integration to the individualized customer order and make sure all the different dots are connected, you are able to really come up with a millisecond high-speed assembly and production line, which at the end, and we did a key chain when we were at Hannover Fair, which is really not very expensive. And I believe so mass customization together with 3D printing are two topics which will revolutionize the way manufacturing is done. And I could also see some impact on how manufacturing is distributed around the world, because you have the chance to bring back some of the manufacturing to the industrial countries if you have mass customization at a similar price point as you have in other countries. That's right. I mean, that's one of the outcomes is that you can distribute it anywhere. But I am interested, because it's not, I guess once the machines are being computationally controlled, okay, that's been done for a while. But once you can give them custom orders, which I guess is a little bit new here, then it's not going to really take that much more time. Let's say if you maybe paint it this way, or you design it this way, or you add these parts in a particular way, because it's just part of the whole assembly line. And I guess I never thought it through, or maybe it's the first time I heard it, but that does seem to be a logical drop from having this connected manufacturing. And I guess I have heard it before. I kind of also like the concept of the factory as a product, which is really, in a sense, I guess if we step back a little bit more, we're kind of talking about that too. And layering in 3D printing, which is kind of my background on the 3D side anyway, is something I love. But this whole concept of, is it a little bit different, like factory as a product, or is it kind of the same sort of thing that we're talking about here? Yeah, good question. I actually believe it's a little different because what we do is you have lot size 1, but highly individualized. And so in a way, and you have it in mass production, you have it in high speed. If this is your understanding also of factory as a product, then we are together. But I think there are different definitions out there in the market, and I believe it's really something new. And we can share, if you like, the link to a video where we have recorded what we have shown in Hannover Fair, where you really start with a personalized, as consumer, you are entering your order in a personalized manner. You can configure it, and then it goes directly down to the machine, and you see how the assembly line starts to work without any further intervention of any human being.
Fascinating. No, I would like to link that. We'll link that in the show notes as well. And the distributed nature of what you're saying, I guess I'm just trying to think of what that actually means. I suppose then if you're a buyer or if you're a customer, you could send your order to any factory, or it could be sent to any factory around the world that had the capabilities to manufacture it due to those specific specifications. Is that what you meant by being able to use different factories in different parts of the world, or is there a nuance that I'm not getting right now?
Yeah, no, I think it's two different elements. Number one is you can do it for your own production line, what is happening in most of our cases. So consumers are ordering, they're using their web shop, and then it goes down to the shop floor, to the production line of exactly that company. You could also think, of course, in a network approach where you have maybe more offers from different manufacturers. I would say this is a concept I'm sure will come, but I have not seen it in reality so often so far. In contrast to what I said before, so mass productization, mass customization, I see more and more coming. What I meant before, it might change the way manufacturing is distributed around the world. Because I think when you look back at the history of manufacturing, it started and then the mass production came up, and we had maybe countries in China or others who were taking the lead there, and other countries, industrial countries, were more taking the lead on specialized manufacturing or specialized individualized production. And when you now bring those two together, I believe there's a huge opportunity also for the industrial companies to bring some of the mass production back, and obviously also for the other countries to pick up more of this lot size one kind of production combined with mass production. So we see in a few years, but I could imagine that this might change a little bit the distribution, how manufacturing companies are distributing their different facilities going forward. Let's go for 1 second in a slightly different direction, because what you are saying with the network and manufacturing, this is something what we see already now happening if you talk about 3D printing. And I heard before a certain excitement in your voice when I mentioned it, and what we are doing together with UPS, and maybe you heard it, that we are building an on-demand manufacturing network. Because UPS really wants to invest in making sure that they also can manufacture parts very close to the consumer with a 3D printing farm. So part of the networks, we have manufacturer, we have logistic service providers, and we are kind of the platform connecting all of them and making sure the specifications are handed over, the timelines are met, and so on. So we can also share more information there, but this, I think, is really a very forward-looking way of doing manufacturing going forward. And it does not mean everything will be 3D printed. I don't know if this will ever happen. But what we see more and more, that parts are already printed, and that as delivery speed matters, that the logistic service provider or distribution centers are coming closer to the consumer, or the 3D printing farms as well.
Yeah, well, yeah. So 3D in general is close to my heart, because I started my career there. Actually, I started as a mathematician that was building 3D models, and they were for dinosaurs. So the first Jurassic Park movie was not my company's, but the company I worked for. We developed the software for that, and I followed the 3D printing up until now, again, just because that's kind of where I started my career. But when you talk about 3D printing, there's nothing unique about 3D printing as opposed to another, extrusion print manufacturing that is related to IoT, if you know what I mean. Is 3D printing, is it any more related to IoT than any other form of manufacturing, or is it just the connectivity that you're bringing together 3D printing and IoT? I'm just wondering, is there any extra synergy between the two?
No, I think you exactly hit the point. Why I brought in this example, because it really will change the way manufacturing goes going forward. One of it is getting all the information from the devices. Another one is 3D printing, and we have to be careful that we are not locally optimizing here and there the manufacturing, but really doing a complete reset on how would manufacturing in the year of 2020, or it's maybe too close, 2020, 2025 look like, and prepare for that with our software solutions.
And then maybe we'll distribute it all the way to our home potentially as well. But I guess that's sort of happening today. But I got to sort of get into it a little bit more. Well, let's switch gears. I mean, because I think I want to cover a little bit more. Let's talk about asset intelligent networks. That's a favorite subject of a lot of people. So let's do the same thing. Maybe just give us a background of what it is, some best practices. How do you actually generate value there? Tell us about asset intelligent networks.
Yeah, and it's also one of my favorite topics because one thing is what I said before. We need to think about how humans. We will change our behavior to get a better interaction with machines, and machines will become more intelligent over time. Will more human-like, maybe get emotions and so on. So I think I wouldn't say that maybe become similar empathetic, but it goes in this direction. And those they will want to have also social networks. So what asset intelligence network is, it's a Facebook of machines. So all relevant data for an asset is stored there. So it's a single source of truth. And it's between the manufacturer, the service provider, the operator. And right now you have them all in different data sources, in different files. No one stores findings or learnings. And you also cannot do easy firmware updates across all machines. And this is possible with the asset intelligence network. And we had just a few weeks ago, we had an IoT Info Day here for our employees in Germany, in Waldorf. And there we had Andres and Hauser as a company, and he was on stage with me, and he said he wants to congratulate SAP, which not always happens, to be honest. And he really thinks that this is very visionary, and they have done parts of it in an old tool where they also stored all their machines and so on, and they try to share some of the data, but they were never able to go in this direction of a sharing economy, making sure everybody has the same view on the data, and that it kind of evolves, becomes a learning system over time.
But Tanja, explain to me, isn't this the same, or how is it different than, say, a PLM, ERP kind of environment? I mean, you guys are obviously experts in those areas too.
Yeah, I think you obviously can store one time the data as well as into PLM, and I would say the PLM gets connected and can share the data and hand it over, so no need for keying it in. But I think what this network brings together, think about in my vision of the future, I think we will anyway go away from value chain, supply chain. It will all become more network. It will become more collaborative, and all companies, the winning companies will think about changing on sharing data, being more open, collaborating also with, I wouldn't call it competitors, but with other partners in the ecosystem. So when we take this as a first step, the asset intelligence network will bring together several of the parties, manufacturers, service providers, operators of the world's assets to collaborate around the shared equipment information to really, at the end, maximize availability and obviously also improve efficiency. This is not something you can do with a standalone silo PLM system.
Right. Okay, so now I think I'm getting the difference here. So I guess, although I kind of snickered a little bit when you said Facebook, but now I kind of understand in the sense that you're bringing in some non-traditional, I guess, entities into the value chain, and you're even saying it's not even a chain anymore, right? It's not a linear process. It's going to be a non-linear one that's going to go in a whole bunch of different directions. So you're talking about, again, I guess, not that it's not overloaded enough, but we'll say it's a platform to a certain extent where you can bring together all the, I guess, entities involved in in producing that asset, and I suppose ordering that asset, and then maybe shipping that asset. Is that right? Is it the whole life cycle of the asset as well?
This asset intelligence network does focus on one element when you have the asset already acquired or when you have it in production, in operation. But it obviously is connected to our Ariba network where you can order assets, and it also is connected to our logistics network. I think you have to be careful. You have sometimes different stakeholders, like in the logistic business network. You have the freight forwarder, you have the shipper, and so on. I think it's important the data is shared if the stakeholders allow it. So we are not the owner of the data. It's always the respective company. But a lot of value is in data sharing and also connecting the different parts of the value chain together. Exactly what you said. The value is not in optimizing only now predictive maintenance. The value is in going from manufacturing to maintenance to logistics, and make sure that you have the data once and you share it not only in your company, also between OT and IT, while I know it's hard, but also cross companies.
So can you give us an example? I don't know if anyone's actually using this today, but maybe even a use case, but just to clarify it or just to make it a little bit more, clear to everyone listening, how has an intelligent network like this for an asset's been used or being used today?
Yeah, so I think that this application is just released, so we have several customers using it in beta, but not yet productive. But I think we have several customers using it in beta. And one is, I mentioned the company name before, but they are pump producers, and they obviously want to share the data around their pumps, that they don't have to send it out everywhere, that they have it stored in one place. And as I said, they already had a little homegrown solution, which only does parts of it, where they started to connect the operators to also make it easier to provide service and so on. So I think this is one company. Another company where we have already predictive maintenance and service as a showcase, it's our Käser compressors, who want to, besides selling the compressors, the products, they also are going in new business models and selling air, so selling the product as a service. And they are also now extending it to the asset intelligence network, so they are kind of combining several of our solutions and sharing the data between the solutions and providing it as they are the manufacturer. They also provide it to the service provider. Partially, they are also doing service provisioning. So it's the same company, but sometimes also a partner. So this is another case. Third example is, for example, a large chemical company who really see value in making sure together with the manufacturer. So they are kind of, in that case, the user of the asset of the machine to get all this information online. And for them, the biggest case was sometimes you have findings and you want to report them back, and you directly also want to change maybe the next production line and so on. And you want to do, or Käser, for example, was very interested in the firmware updates that you can do them all at one time. So it's always a little different tweak. But I think the customers are pretty excited and believe this is very forward-looking, and only a few had homegrown solutions for similar cases.
Okay, so now, I think that's helped me a little bit, because what I'm getting from what you described in the use cases or the customers is it's just a very efficient way to share information. In this particular case, share the asset information or the product information. Is that a good summary, or is there a better summary if we take it down the one line?
I think you should go. I think transparency is always a good start, and this is absolutely one of the benefits. But keep in mind that our networks and our IoT solutions are also learning solutions. So over time, the system gets more intelligent in sharing the data and giving recommendation how to set it up, how to implement, giving recommendation what to include in the design next time. So it's not only that you have kind of display, but you also get some insights and get some predictions or some machine learning intelligence as part of using the asset intelligence network.
All right, you got a bit of intelligence thrown in on the side. All right, well, Tanja, this has been awesome. I feel like we can just keep on talking and talking. This is actually the most we've ever talked, right? But I feel like we can keep on talking and talking. However, it is Friday night for you. You've just come back from a business trip, so maybe we can just end it by, if you could tell our listeners, where can they find out more about you? Where can they find out more about SAP's IoT solutions?
So, first of all, thank you for this opportunity. And Bruce, while it is true, I came back this morning from California, and maybe I should be tired. It was very energizing, and I hope the listeners also could get something out of it, and I hope we continue at some time. So how can you find more out about me. That's very kind, and our organization and product. Obviously, you can visit us at sap.com. You can also go at sap.com / Internet of Things. So we have a separate, no surprise. Or on Twitter, we have a hashtag SAP IoT. I'm also at LinkedIn, while I must admit I'm maybe not so active on LinkedIn than on Twitter. So I think that those are some places where you can find SAP information on IoT solutions as well as about myself.
Excellent, Tanja. Well, thank you. I enjoyed it like usual. And next time when you're in California, make sure you look me up and we'll continue the conversation. So thanks very much.
Yeah, Bruce, thank you very much. Thanks to everybody who listened. Thank you.
Okay, well, that was episode 64. That's an awesome number. There's so many reasons. It's all made out of 2s, 2 to the 6, and there's lots of other goodness too. To get analysis of this episode, to get the links, and if you want to read the transcript, go to the show analysis notes. All of them can be found at iotinc.com/podcast. Now remember there's that finicky hyphen between the IoT and the Inc. Now, if you've been listening to this show for a little while and you've been enjoying it, then you've probably heard me say this a few times. But I haven't had any reviews in at least a couple weeks, so I could use your help. If you've been enjoying this show, go to iTunes, click through on reviews, and you just have to click a star review, or I'd really appreciate it if you left a short message. I'm your host, Bruce Sinclair. Thank you for listening. Until next time, may your path to IoT business be a custom one.
You have been listening to the IoT Inc. Business Show.